Hi everyone and welcome to Grammar episode 31. Today we're talking about conditionals. Let's see what they are. Now a conditional sentence is what we call the if type of sentence. If this happens, this will be the result. Now it's always made up of two parts. A hypothetical event or situation and a hypothetical result. And the two parts are connected. They depend on each other. Now, what do I mean by hypothetical? I mean it's something that's not necessarily real right now. You're using your fantasy to imagine something that could be real. So, if I had $1 million, I would buy a big yacht. So I'm imagining the possibility. There is a chance that sometime in the future I may have $1 million and buy a big yacht. But at this point in time, I'm imagining this scenario. That's what we call something hypothetical, something we imagine possible for the future. Now, let's have a look at the conditionals. We'll start with conditional 0. Conditional 0, the formula is if plus present simple in the first part and present simple again in the second part. Now, I use this for facts or general truths. Let me give you an example. If you press this button, there's my present simple word after if, you see? So if you press this button, the computer turns on. Turns is again my present simple word immediately in the second part. So this is conditional 0. Present simple and present simple. Very, very easy. But we use this just when we give some facts or general truths about the world. If you email this company, you receive a reply within 24 hours. That is a general truth, a fact for that particular company. Now let's have a look at conditional 1. And this is where we begin speaking about hypothetical things. Now conditional 1 is usually, but not only, is usually if plus present simple, followed by will and a bare infinitive verb. For example, if you work hard, you will pass your exams. But if you don't work hard, you will not pass your exams. So you see if plus present simple, followed by will and a bare infinitive verb, will pass. Now I use this when I talk about the future, future possibilities, things that might happen in the future. But you can see if you work hard is the hypothetical event, the hypothetical situation, and the hypothetical result, you will pass your exams. So you can see they're connected. So this and this depend on each other. Let's have a look at some more details. Now there are some words that are synonyms for if, for conditional 1. Assuming that, as long as, provided that, providing, and on the condition that. So these words can replace the word if for conditional 1 sentences. Let's move on. I can also use the word unless instead of the word if, but it's negative. It means if you do not do something. And you have to be careful because unless is always followed by a positive verb. For example, look here, unless you study, this means the same as if you do not study. So unless you study, you won't pass. So you can see I don't have a negative verb immediately after the word unless. Whereas with the previous ones, if I use the word if, for example, I can put a negative word. So if you don't study, and you can see the contrast very clearly here if you want to pause the video and have a look. So here I could have said, if you don't study, you won't pass. But I said unless. So unless you study, you won't pass. Let's move on. Now, a conditional clause. What is a conditional clause? You'll see in yellow, I have highlighted the conditional clause of these sentences. If you work hard, provided you work hard, on condition you work hard, or unless you work hard. The second part of the sentence is not the conditional clause. The conditional clause, the conditional part, is the one that follows the connective, the conjunction. If, provided, on condition that, and unless. So you need to have a conjunction if you're going to have a conditional clause. And that in yellow, and you can pause the video and have a closer look, is the conditional clause. Now, conditional 1 in the result part can also have a modal verb or an imperative verb. Modals are words like can, should, must, etc. And imperatives don't have a subject. They start directly with a verb. So have a closer look. But if is always followed by present simple in the conditional, in the hypothetical situation. So I still have if plus present simple, but in the second part, I don't have to have the word will. I can have a modal verb or an imperative verb. So you can choose. So pause the video and have a good look. But why would I use this one? I would use this one only if I'm trying to give directions, commands, instructions of some sort, suggestions. So this is the reason why I would change the result part from will and use a modal or an imperative. Okay, let's move on. Conditional 2. Now, conditional 2 is usually followed by if and past simple in the first part, in the hypothetical situation part, and then would instead of will in the result part, but my verb is still in the bare infinitive. For example, look at this one. If I knew, there's my past simple, if plus past simple. If I knew mathematics, I would be, there's my word would, and there's my V1 verb, my bare infinitive. I would be a maths teacher. Now, when do I use conditional 2? When I want to give advice, or if I'm looking at something now that isn't really possible, so I'm just using my fantasy. For example, I'm an English teacher. I'm not a mathematics teacher right now, but if you ask me a mathematics question, I can reply like this. If I knew maths, meaning right now I don't know maths, if I knew maths, I would be a maths teacher. But I'm not. I'm an English teacher. Therefore, I use this when I just want to make a point or give advice about something to someone. But we talk about the present moment now for something that is not possible now. It's pure fantasy. Okay? So something right now that is pure fantasy is conditional 2. The future was conditional 1, but the present always looks at conditional 2. Now, of course, we can have would in the result section. We can have could, and we can have might. They are all the same. If I knew maths, I might be a maths teacher. If I knew maths, I could be a maths teacher. But I want to draw your attention to the advice, giving advice to someone. Now, first of all, I should tell you, after if, I can't use the word was. Okay, it's kind of forbidden with conditionals to say if I was, if he was. So I would say if he were. So I could say if I were a maths teacher, I could help you. If I were a doctor, I would help you. So be careful, the word was is forbidden with the word if. I can say if I were you, I would study harder. So you see, I'm giving you advice because I can't be you, right? So I'm using my fantasy. So it's still fantasy right now because I can't be you. It's not possible. Okay, so you can see how I'm using my fantasy. Or if I had a party at my house and I invited everyone except you because maybe I don't like you, you can say, Diana, why didn't you invite me to your party? And I'm like, I must think of an excuse. If I had more space, I would invite you, but unfortunately I don't have any more space in my house. So I'm using my fantasy to come up with an excuse for something. So this one is really, really good when you want to talk about the opposite of reality right now. Let's move on. Conditional 3. Now, conditional 3 is usually if plus past perfect simple to be more precise, followed by would have. You need to have both of these words together, would have, and a verb either with ed or in the third column of irregular verbs. For example, if I had listened to you, I would have passed my exam. There's my past perfect after the word if, and would have passed, my ed verb with would have. Now, this is used for a real past situation, something you're either happy about, so thankful, or you regret. So here you really had an exam and you really didn't pass. But I tell you, if you had listened to me, you would have passed your exam. So I'm saying it's a regretful thing that you didn't listen to me, but it's based on a real past event that happened. So you really had an exam. This is not fantasy like conditional to, okay? But of course, we can also have, okay, the word could and might instead of would, okay, for conditional 3. So it's possible. So if you had listened to me, you might have passed. If you had listened to me, you could have passed. But most people would say, if you had listened to me, you would have passed your exam. Okay? So this is based on something real that happened in the past, and I'm giving you a hypothetical alternative to what could have happened in the past. Now, it's important to note you can have negative in any of the two parts of your sentence. Okay? It doesn't matter. You're allowed to have the negative form of present simple, past simple, past perfect after the word if it's possible. But if you have the word unless, you remember I said you can't use a negative form immediately after the word. And you can also flip around the two parts of the sentence. So for example, if Peter were here, he would know what to do. Peter would know what to do if he were here. So you see, I just flipped them around, the two parts. That's also possible for any of them. So pause the video and have a good look at my examples here so you know how to work with conditionals. And good luck.